Good evening. Good evening and happy Thursday to each and every one of you. Happy Thursday. Welcome to another segment of the Pivot Conversations. Welcome to another segment of the Pivot Conversations. Thank you all for joining in on tonight. We are going to get started at the top of the hour. We are going to get started at 6 o'clock p.m. So as you join in, I just ask that you type your city and state. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know where you are watching from. Good evening to each and every one of you. Just let me know where you're watching from tonight. Type your city and state as you come in, as you jump in. And again, we are going to get started right at 6 o'clock p.m. I hope that you all have had a wonderful Thursday. I hope that you all are ready to learn something. I'm going to try to give you some information, some pointers tonight, and we are going to just have a good time. I won't be on here long. Like I said, we will start at the top of the hour at 6 o'clock p.m. As you are coming in, I want you to let me know where you're watching from. Let me know where you're watching from. Next, I want you to tag somebody, tag someone, and share this video. I will be sharing point number 4 of the teaching purpose of the pivot. So this is going to be good tonight. So I want you to get in your virtual seats. Let me know where you're watching from. Tag somebody, share this video. This is going to be some really good information that I put out on tonight. So just let me know if you can see, if you can hear, if the video is going good. Let me know if there are any problems with the video. So I'm just waiting to see a few comments, and then we will go ahead and get started at 6 o'clock p.m. So we are going to get started in a few seconds. All right. So thank you all for tuning in tonight. I'm just trying. Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. I see Felicia Nelson is watching, so hello to you. I'm not sure who else is watching, but it is 6 o'clock, so we are going to get started on tonight. I ask that you share this video, tag somebody, invite someone to come and be a part of this teaching. And I want to let you know that I will be doing some question and answer at the end of the video. So if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask them at the end. So let me say good evening and thank you to each of you who have joined in this live with me. I also want to thank those of you who may be watching the replay. And if you're catching it on the replay, I just ask that you type replay in the comments. So I'm not sure if this is your first time tuning in or if you are returning for another pivot conversation. This may sound a little redundant to those of you who've been tuned in for the last few segments, because this is actually the 4th one. But for the newcomers, I want to reiterate that all this month we will be teaching on and focused on one word, that word pivot. We know that word pivot has been the buzzword during this pandemic, and I was downloaded some information from God way back in April when this pandemic first hit, when we were first ordered to stay at home, and I wrote it down. So I finally decided, you know what, it's probably time that I share this information. And you may be wondering, what's the purpose of this and why should I listen? Well, I'm glad you're wondering that. And the purpose of this is to help you pivot and to navigate through changes in your life, whatever that change may be. It may be as simple as implementing something new into your daily regimen, or something as complex as a career change or starting a new business. It may be something as simple as adding an additional challenge to your workout regimen, or something as complex as navigating through a relationship status change. It may be something as intentional as drinking more water, to something as complex as setting a financial goal and sticking to it. So I want you to know that change is inevitable. Change is inevitable and it will happen. Whether it's forced, unexpected or whether you initiate it. I'm here as the Change Navigator, as your pivot partner, to help you work through your fears, to help you simplify what seems to be complex as it relates to change, and to help you begin to live a life full of joy and fulfillment once you implement the necessary changes. So I don't want you to think that I'm suggesting that this will be easy. I don't want you to think that I'm unaware of the mental, physical, and emotional changes associated with change. As a matter of fact, I want to say this, and this is going to sound very contradictory to all of the positive words I say, but I want you to brace yourself for this, for what I'm about to say. All right? Here's what you should understand. Anything you undertake that you have the intentions of being ultimately successful is going to involve failure. I'm going to say that again. Anything you undertake that you have the intentions of being ultimately successful is going to involve failure. I'm going to say that one more time. Anything that you undertake with the intentions of being ultimately successful is going to involve failure. So here's what you do. You expect to fail. Yes, you expect to fail, not to fail the ultimate mission or your ultimate goal, but expect failure en route to your success. Expect failure en route to your success. Then when you have this expectation, you won't quit when failure happens, because you'll understand that it does happen when you're on your way to success. But you don't stop at failure. You don't quit at failure. You keep pushing. So I can't tell you when failure is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen in the beginning of your journey. I don't know if it's going to happen in the middle. I don't know if it's going to happen right when you are reaching your pinnacle, but it will happen. And the point I'm trying to make is don't quit. You'll have to assess and know that you've had more successes than failures while trying to implement change. So when you have some successes while you're trying to get to that ultimate goal, pause and celebrate small victories, but keep it moving, because failure will happen. All right. So I know that was a little tough to grasp and a little tough to hear, and sometimes tough to comprehend. But I had to share that because I want you to be prepared when it happens. I don't want to just paint a beautiful, rosy picture, but I want to help you understand the thorns that are with the rose. And sometimes you will feel the pain of the thorn while looking at the beautiful budding rose. We will struggle, we will fail, and we will be knocked down. But throughout, we'll get better and we'll succeed in the end. All right? So now back to this pivot conversation. Let's talk about pivot. In its simplest form, and for the purpose of what I'm discussing, according to dictionary.com, pivot means to turn on. The other definition it provided as it relates to basketball is to keep one foot in place while holding the ball and moving the other foot one step in any direction. So I remember when I was learning how to play basketball and about the fundamentals of the game in middle school. And at the time, my coach was the late Mrs. Frances Leday. She taught us to pivot, especially when we were trapped in a corner and facing a turnover. We understand what it means to pivot, but what is the purpose of the pivot? And that's what we've been talking about, these pivot conversations, the purpose of the pivot, why we should pivot. I've already shared 3 points. As to why we should pivot. All right. Hey, Angela, I've shared 3 points. Point number 1, the purpose of the pivot is to give you extra space to think and to create. Point number 2, the purpose of the pivot is to give you an alternative. Anytime a problem presents itself, the solution is always present. All right. Anytime a problem presents itself, the solution is always present, the alternative. Number 3, the purpose of the pivot is to see something differently. And a lot of time, the success of the pivot is going to be predicated upon timing. Upon when things begin to come clear and when things are no longer blocked. It's a certain timing that you have to move for the pivot. And tonight we are going to go to point number 4. All right. The purpose of the pivot is to get you out of trouble. It is to get you out of trouble. Yes, the purpose of the pivot is to get you out of trouble. I want to ask you, what do you do when you get in trouble? Not the type of trouble you used to get into when you were a child and you feared some sort of consequence by the disciplinarian in your home. No, but I'm talking about some sort of adult trouble. What do you do when you get in trouble? Maybe some overspending or a bad investment. Or maybe a health scare due to an accident or poor eating habits. Or possibly being genetically predisposed to certain conditions. What do you do when you get in trouble? Maybe trouble to you looks like showing up late for work and there's an important meeting going on that you're missing. Or maybe trouble looks like getting pulled over for speeding. Maybe trouble looks like messing up in your relationship. Whatever your trouble is, what do you do when you get in trouble? I want you to think about that for a second, and if you feel open to it, you can reply in the comments. But if not, just think about what do you do when you get in trouble? If the purpose of the pivot is to get you out of trouble, remember, a pivot is a turn. It's to get you out of trouble. So for now, let's focus on the feeling that we get when we are pulled over for speeding. I want to point out this one thing. When we are pulled over for speeding, let's focus on the feeling and what goes on inside of our bodies, all right? We have that increased heart rate. We have heavy breathing. We have the fear of the unknown. We have the thought of the worst happening and all of the possible explanations we can give to the officer. Wait, I don't want to make an assumption, but since you've had your driver's license, have you gotten a speeding ticket? If you have gotten a ticket, just click the like button so I'll know that I'm not making an assumption. Since you've been an adult, have you gotten a speeding ticket? If you have, just click the like button. All right? Point is, when we get in trouble, no matter the situation, we generally have, thank you. All right. You all have gotten speeding tickets. I have too, but I've learned how to stop getting them. So the point is, when we get in trouble, no matter the situation, we generally have the same physiological and psychological responses. We have an increased heart rate. We have heavy breathing. Sometimes we have a weird feeling in the bottom of our stomach. We have increased perspiration. We have a fear of the unknown. We have anxiety. We think about the worst possible outcome. We think of many explanations to the person who is holding us accountable. But how can a pivot change all of that? If the purpose of the pivot is to help you get out of trouble, how can it change all of that? All right? Will it get you out of a speeding ticket? I'm not suggesting that it will. Will it get you out of trouble when you mess up in your relationship? I'm not suggesting that it will. I'm suggesting when you are honest in your assessment when you get in trouble and you take a little time to think about it and look, then you can get out of trouble. Even if it's painful, even if it's embarrassing, even if it humbles you and it's a constant reminder of what you did, it's still a way to get out of trouble. You see, sometimes we dig deeper holes for ourselves by avoiding honesty and healthy confrontation. I'm going to stop right there. Be quiet. Sometimes we dig deeper holes for ourselves by avoiding honesty and healthy confrontation. So we also need to be able to recognize, this is good right here, that change is not always a people problem, but change can be a situation problem. You see, we are frequently blind to the situation and we commit what's known as the fundamental attribution error. It is the error that lies in our inclination to attribute people's behavior to the way they are rather than to the situation that they are in. Okay? So sometimes we think a person is behaving a certain way and we want to say that that's the person, but not understand that sometimes it's the situation. So, for instance, because you are speeding, does that mean that you are a jerk and you drive recklessly? No. It means that it's possible that you overslept and you are late for a meeting, so you're trying to get to work on time. When you make a bad investment, does that mean you don't know how to handle money? Not necessarily. It could mean that the situation looked favorable to you and you made a bad judgment call. When you mess up in your relationship, does that mean that you are a serial cheater? No. It could mean that you were not receiving emotional support and reassurance from your significant other, and you were caught off guard by someone giving you what you had been missing. All of these are examples of situational problems. And sometimes in order to really make changes, we have to determine whether it's situational or whether it's personal. So if the purpose of the pivot is to get you out of trouble, how can you apply this to your life? Whether it's personal, whether it's a career, or whatever. Remember, in order to get out of trouble, you have to face the truth head on. All right? So that's my teaching for tonight, and here is your homework. Number 1, identify trouble areas in your life. Identify areas in your life that's troubling to you. Identify areas in your life, that's trouble. Then number 2, I want you to write down the truth about those areas. Okay? Write down the truth about those trouble areas in your life. Then number 3, I want you to pivot or turn by being honest about those areas. So you can turn by being honest about those areas. Number 4, I want you to identify whether this is a situation problem or whether this is a person problem. All right? You remember I told you how to differentiate between the two? Sometimes situations need to be changed and not necessarily the person. So whatever the trouble area in your life, identify whether it's a situation problem or whether it's person, you being the person that needs to be changed. All right. And number 5, I want you to make a plan to get rid of those trouble areas. Write down some action steps. Write down what you can do to rid your life of those trouble areas. That's it. That's it for the teaching tonight. Teaching number 4, the purpose of the pivot is to get you out of trouble. All right? It's to get you out of trouble. And if you're just tuning in, I ask that you go back and listen to it because I shared some really good information, some really thought-provoking things that I think will help you as you try to navigate through some changes or some rough spots in your life. So are there any questions that you all have for me? Thank you, Ronald. Thank you. Are there any questions that you all have for me before I log off? If you all enjoyed it, I ask that you simply click that like button, click that love button. Let me know that you enjoyed it. I look forward to the feedback that I received from you guys. So if you enjoyed it, just click the like button, click the love button, and let me know. All right. Thank you so much. I see the hearts. And if there's no questions or anything, I want you, if you need help with anything, just feel free, take out time to email me at thechangenavigator@gmail.com. And I would love to help you work through whatever your challenge is. I would love to be your pivot partner as you make some changes in your life. Again, the teaching tonight was on point number 4, The purpose of the pivot is to get you out of trouble. So we want to get out of trouble in some areas in our lives, and we want to determine whether it's situational or whether it's personal. And we can really assess that and understand if the situation needs to be changed, if it's the situation that's causing us to respond a certain way, or if it's really us, okay? So only you can assess that and determine that. But again, thank you all for tuning in. And if you're just tuning in, I ask that you go back and watch it. And if you found this information to be helpful, I ask that you share it, tag somebody, invite them to watch it or go back and watch the replay and talk about it. All right. Thank you all. And I will be back on Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. So I do these teachings every Tuesday and every Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. 6 p.m. And I promise I will not keep you longer than 20 minutes. I won't keep you longer than 20 minutes. I realize that your time is valuable. My time is valuable. You have a lot of things that you could be doing, but you are giving me a few moments of your time. So I thank you for that. And again, I do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. for no longer than 20 minutes. No longer than 20 minutes. The teaching is usually about 12 to 15 minutes. Then I give time for question and answers if there are any. All right. But thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you again on Tuesday. All right. Good night.